Hello and welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Chris McKinney on most days from Nolan Financial Radio. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 719-210-4242 or visit us online at our website, nolanfinancialpartners.com. So while at our website, click on the radio page, check out past shows, subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and Amazon podcast. We can be reached on almost anything. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us with your questions or set up a face-to-face meeting, we're available for virtual meetings as well. So when I look back at my younger days, I cringe at some of the financial mistakes I made. That's not to imply I made any life-altering mistakes or really made more mistakes than the average young adult. But man, sometimes I look back and think, if I knew then what I know now. Now as a now as a financial services professional, I do my best to help my clients avoid mistakes. But I also remind them that we're all human. So mistakes are inevitable. The trick is to do everything you can to not make the same mistake twice. So on our show today, we're going to examine some of the most frequently made financial mistakes and what you can do to avoid them. But before we go to our topic, I want to introduce you to my co-host, Tony Shore, whose intelligence and quick thinking always helps our show avoid mistakes.
Who are you talking about? Because I don't know that guy, but yeah, I don't know. Hey, I'm not perfect. I'm the first to admit I'm not perfect, but thank you for those kind words. Regardless, I make my share of mistakes, but I try to help the show out as much as I can, Chris. The struggle is real some days, right?
That is correct.
Oh, we all have those days. So
my struggle this morning was feeding the horses hay. I had to get out 2,500 pounds for them. So
my goodness.
yeah.
The big round bales? Do you use the big round bales?
We
or
did the
no?
big square bales. We're getting ready to do some
Square.
traveling. So
Yeah.
we're throwing out some big bales and hopefully they'll last while we're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, there you go. Well, and I mean, it's funny because I'm always looking at this and trying to, you know, figure this out. And there's nothing wrong with, like you said, making an occasional mistake now and then, but you
Right.
just don't want to repeat the same mistake over and over, and learning from your mistakes. I think that's always helpful too. Hey, but
Yes.
first I wanted to say I've had a crazy busy week. I think
Oh,
I might have mentioned some stuff last week going on, but my wife had surgery last Friday, and
wow.
Sarah had surgery, but she's doing better. She had a herniated umbilical under her belly button or
Oh,
something.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it happens. It's actually pretty common. Hernia operations are common, but
Sure.
under the belly button is common as well.
Okay.
So she's doing better. She has to rest at home all week though, and can't lift anything. So that means doing dishes, loading, unloading, laundry. I'm doing it all, which is, hey, I don't mind helping out. I
Wait,
help
wait,
out
wait. I
anyway.
have a question about this umbilical cord. Does that mean we all have one? I just thought about that. We all have an umbilical cord in our bellies.
Well, yeah,
Sort
yeah,
of.
yeah. When they cut it off, sometimes it doesn't quite heal up right as
Yeah.
infants, and then you can get a hernia in there, and it can irritate. So it's right underneath the belly button,
Wow.
and so they either have to take out your belly button, and you don't longer have a belly button, or they have to make one.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it?
That
I've
is
never thought of
super
that, but
interesting. Yeah.
it's a pretty common. I mean, she went in at 6:30 and we were driving home at 10:30, but she
Nice.
has to keep an ice pack on it, and it's quite a
Sure.
scar, but
Sure. Just a
so
little
far,
sore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's recovering
So
nicely. And my mom, we got her
thoughts
moved
with you.
into the home, and I've been
Right.
busy with work. Our editor, Mitch, was out last week, who edits these shows, and so I was doing all the editing last week of shows, and that's always fun. Yeah.
All
So
right.
so I was busy. How about you? What have
That
you been up to?
we've been really busy helping our clients create assets that will last a long time,
Yep.
assets that'll be tax free to their beneficiaries,
Right.
and then they can still use a lot of living benefits with these assets.
That's great.
So we've done a lot over the last 2 weeks. Our assistant Danielle has just been crazy good at getting these all the documents in line, and so we've been doing really having fun with it because then I get to deliver the good news to clients.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's great when things come together and the financial plans you lay out for people come together and you can help them get on the right path and grow their retirement funds. I think
Yep.
that's awesome. And I know Danielle's been a big help, especially with Tara out of the country still. She's
All right.
you've been doing a lot of work there. When will she ever be back? Do we have a date on that
I
yet?
So I thought she was gonna come back, this fall, but she says, "Well, maybe I need to spend another 2 weeks." So I've got a I've got a hard date that she'll be back in November, okay?
November. Wow. That's a long
So
way off yet. Yeah.
because we have a plan to go do a little quick trip down to Scottsdale.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
we're trying to find a place that we can ride our horses in the winter, so
Oh, okay. Nice.
because it's too cold
Nice.
in Colorado.
Well, yeah. Yeah,
The
obviously.
ground freezes.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so we're talking today about financial mistakes that people need to avoid. And again, we talked a little bit about perfection, and nobody's perfect, but hey,
Right.
here we are. So, how do you want to get us started?
So the first potential mistake I want to talk about is frivolous overspending. So this is great fortunes are often lost $1 at a time. So that's some quote by somebody from somebody we don't know,
I've
anonymous.
heard that though. I've heard that a lot actually. My grandfather used to say it. I
Yeah.
think Warren Buffett has said that. So, yeah.
Stopping for that bagel, that Starbucks coffee every morning. That's $10 at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And so that can add up if you're starting that habit, especially if you're moving into a fixed income where you can't replace things. And also maybe you're decide, hey, I want to go out to lunch as my social time uh, in retirement, or maybe that's my social time at work is to go out for lunch. Well, lunches are getting to be 15 to $25.
Yeah.
So $25 a week adds up to $1,300 a year. Now, if you're eating out 5 days a week, that's $6,500 a year. Is that
Wow.
is that where you want to put your assets? Is into spending $25 a week or a
Right.
day on lunch
Yeah.
per
I
week?
would say no unless it's pizza. Then I would have to, you know me. I'm just joking. Kind of.
Uh, so we're not saying that you should not pinch every penny and stop enjoying life, but
Right.
just make sure that you understand what you're doing and how your money is being spent. Go on
There
that
you go.
vacation, go out to a ball game with friends, go out to dinner with some friends.
Right.
Just be smart about it. Don't overdo it. Don't be frivolous about it.
Right.
Know what you have to spend it. By
Yeah.
all means, spend it.
Right. That's true. But, make sure you
Yes.
do it in a right way. I mean, everything in moderation, right? That's what we're talking about
That's
here.
right. So we talk about building a spending plan when we sit down with clients so that they know where their money is being spent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's the next mistake you want to talk about?
So the next one I want to talk about, Tony, is the seemingly never-ending payments. So you don't want to be a financial Sisyphus, endlessly pushing your bills up a hill. So make sure you take some time, sit down, and write down all your subscriptions, your streaming subscriptions. Maybe you've got music subscriptions. Maybe you've got a gym membership. Whatever that you're having to fork over money for month to month. And so, and you don't really own anything at the end of it, right? It's just a
Right.
subscription, right? So
Right.
that's why so many companies want to build subscriptions. That's why, phone service is a subscription. You buy your phone on a subscription. Nobody walks in with $1,000 and buys their iPhone anymore. They just,
No.
yes, sign me up for 2 years. So find out, figure out what subscriptions you want to keep, which ones you don't want to keep. Maybe you want to start rotating those. So one of the things that Tara and I do is with the streaming subscriptions for TV, we'll rotate through. We can't watch commercials, so we pay the extra money so we don't have to watch commercials. But we turn off the streaming when we kind of go through their library, and it'll be off, and then we'll watch somebody else's library, and then we'll turn that one off. So there,
Right.
whether it's Netflix or Amazon Prime or Paramount or Hulu
Hulu.
or
Yeah.
Disney Plus, their libraries are only so big, and then kind of once you get to the end of them, you can wait till it fills up at the end of the year and then go in and binge them all when you want to.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we see it. So anyway, the point is make sure your money's going where you want it to go, and not going off to some monthly charge that you're not really using anymore.
Yeah. Well, and those add up. I mean, the other day I went through the TV streaming alone.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is crazy. Like you mentioned, we have, and this is in the Shore household. I mean, there's 5 of us. There's my wife and I, 3 kids, but
Right.
you and Danielle don't have kids, but if you did, you'd understand. We have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. We have BritBox. That's for me.
Yes.
We have we have Disney Plus, then we got Apple TV Plus, and then we got there's another one. Paramount Plus and Peacock.
Yep. I'll be
We got about I counted 9
Yeah.
TV show and movie streaming services.
Wow.
9 that we are currently subscribed to. So that's
Wow.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have a problem. But I added it up.
Yes.
Still less than DirecTV or cable. So for our
Wow.
listeners out there, that's a money-saving tip. You can have
Yes.
9 streaming services, and it's still costing you less than cable or DirecTV.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
at least in our area. Now, it's different in everybody's area, as far as what they're paying for DirecTV or cable, but it adds up. It's costly. And then there are other streaming services. There's
Right.
Xbox Live. My son used to have, which we paid for a year and a half, and he wasn't using it anymore.
Right.
And we were paying like $19 a month for a year and a half. Yeah, and it
Ouch.
wasn't being used. That you do want to talk about wasting money. Yeah, as a
Sure.
financial advisor, I should never admit that to you, Chris. Don't tell Tara that
No.
happened. But
Does Sarah know?
yes, she wasn't really happy.
I bet.
But it wasn't luckily it wasn't my subscription. I never use Xbox. I'm not a gamer, so
Oh,
that was
sure.
on my son Adam. But I mean, we
Yeah.
were paying for it. He wasn't paying for it. So that's a good one. I think that's a great point. And people think, oh, these nickel and dime things, well, they do add up. And I like how you do it because you don't have to have a contract with Hulu or Netflix. You can
Mm-mm.
watch your show. If a show comes on Netflix you really want to see, subscribe,
Yep.
then unsubscribe and
Right.
pick up Hulu. And then you can cancel and pick it up again when a
Right.
show comes on. Like we like Only Murders in the Building. That's a great
Yes.
show.
That's a really
And
good
that's
show.
on Hulu. That's on Hulu, right?
Right.
So when that one's over, which it just ended this season, we cancel. And then when it starts back up again, we'll subscribe again to Hulu.
Well, Hulu has a neat feature. You can suspend for 3 months.
Yes, that's what we do on Hulu. That's a great thing. Yeah.
So yeah, check to see if they suspend. That way you keep the same account
Yes.
and everything's the same. Your
It's
favorites
not
are
a
still there
hassle.
when you come
Yeah, you
back.
just click a
So
button.
you're not
Yeah.
creating that hassle. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah.
right. So what's next?
So the next thing we want to talk about is spending too much on a house. So you want to have your house right sized, one that fits your spending needs.
Sure.
Now maybe you if you have a bunch of kids, you have a big family, maybe you need that 6,000 square foot house. But if you don't, maybe you don't. So, and if you have that 6,000 square foot house, you're going to pay more in taxes. You're going to have higher utilities. It might even have a more complicated upkeep because normally it does, because that means you're living in a nice neighborhood that has
Right.
expectations about the landscaping. So it's got to be mowed and correctly, or you've got to keep everything up to snuff. Okay. So the bigger the house, the more you pay for it, the more everything that goes with it costs more. Do you need that? Maybe you don't need it anymore. So maybe you want to downsize. So I've had a lot of clients that once their kids got out of the house, they downsized. They moved to a new home.
Hmm.
And so it made more sense for them, even though there's a lot of cost with moving. There's the cost of selling the house. There's a cost in buying the house. There's a cost in the actual move, getting help to move your stuff. It was worth it to them to do that in the long run because of the amount of upkeep, utilities, taxes that they were going to save on having that smaller house.
Yeah. And that's huge. And I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, because on a big house, like let's say you have a 6,000 square foot house, but really you only need a 3,000 foot square in a house, 1,000 square foot house. Wow. Here we go.
Usually
Talk
it's
about
neat.
perfection. I got tongue tied there.
Yeah.
So, but it's not just the cost of the house, your property taxes nowadays, at least where we live,
Oh,
and property
yeah.
taxes on a big house, even just adding one bedroom to an average house increases your property tax significantly. If you go from a 3 to a 4 bedroom
Oh,
or
yeah.
a 3 to a 6 bedroom, your property tax could double. So that's a big thing to consider. I don't think people consider property taxes enough because it's so outrageous. At least ours has gone up and up and up where we live.
We're really aware of it here in Colorado Springs
Sure,
because of Denver. They have really high property
they
taxes.
do.
So when somebody gets into a fixed income situation, they realize that their property taxes are eating away their nest egg,
Yep,
and they can move to Colorado Springs. So they don't have a job anymore. It doesn't matter where they live in Denver. So they'll
sure.
move to Colorado Springs, and that's driven up our market because of so many people
Right.
m-
And now your
getting
property taxes are going up because of it,
right.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So the values of the home go up,
Yep.
property taxes go up.
Yep.
So it's been a crazy ride with the real estate market. Hey,
Same thing where we live.
yeah, I bet. I want to take a minute to give our listeners our phone number. Our phone number is 719-210-4242. Give us a call, mention the radio show, and we'll sign you up for a complimentary consultation. Visit us out at our website to check us out, check out our podcast, those kind of things. So at our website, it's nolanfinancialpartners.com. There's great information that you have access to there. So check it out.
All right. Looks good, Chris. And sounds good. NolanFinancialPartners.com. A lot of great resources there. And this has been a great show so far. You've been talking about these common financial mistakes that we need to avoid, things we can do to save more money for retirement as we head into retirement.
That's
You
right.
talked about frivolous spending, cutting some of that out. Don't get caught up in never ending payments, spending too much for a home that's larger than what we really need.
That's
So,
right.
what do you have for us next?
So the next thing I want to talk about is purchasing a new car. So this is going to
Oh,
be a big, potentially financial mistake that you want to avoid.
yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons why, and we'll get into those. There are like a million new cars sold every year, right?
Wow.
So very few people can purchase those with cash. So not paying with cash means that you're using financing. And
Yeah.
financing means you're paying interest on an asset that is depreciating. Uh, guess what? Financial advisors don't like that. We don't like you
Right.
giving your money to a depreciating asset, especially when it costs you money to spend the money, right?
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that my parents ingrained into me was saving for the car that I want to buy. Never buying with financing, buy with cash. I know that's not feasible for most people because then how long does it take you to save the money for that? Well, so what I've told people is figure out how much you want to spend and how much you want to spend on a monthly basis for that new car. So maybe you take the money that you're going to spend on that new car, on a monthly basis and start saving that in your own spending plan each month, and putting it somewhere where it can grow and make money while you're
Right.
waiting to buy that car. Now your budget can now take you taking that money out of it and spending it on that new car. Guess what you've also done? Maybe you've saved enough money for a hefty down payment for buying that vehicle. And then maybe you start, after you start seeing how that can grow, if you do that payment, those payments like that, say $700 a month. Hey, you know what? If I just wait another 2 years, I can buy this thing with cash. I think I'll do that. And so uh, that's a great thing to be able to do, to walk in and buy a vehicle with cash. We've done that. It's such a neat feeling to just sit down and write a check, right? Of course, I'll call your bank to make sure the check works, but you can buy a car with a check, a new car with a check.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing
Yeah.
is you want to make sure that the vehicle you buy is the right vehicle for you. Do you need an
Right.
SUV with a third row? If you don't have kids, I don't have kids. I don't need a third row, and so I don't have an SUV with third row.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, what kind of vehicle do you need for the type of travel you do? If it gets poor gas mileage, it could be, and you've got a long commute to town, maybe get something that is more cost effective for that, right?
Yeah, yeah, you can get a commuter vehicle. The problem is a lot of people ego is tied up in what they drive for a vehicle. It's not practical. It's all about, I
Yeah,
get it. If some people have a ton of money and they like comfort, they can spend more on a car. I get that. But you also want to be practical. No matter how much money you have, I mean, you don't necessarily need to don't buy a vehicle just because of how it looks. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
I just think that that's the wrong way to go, but to each their own. I mean, maybe they save a lot of money elsewhere and this is the one area they splurge. So I'm not going to diss anybody, but a commuter car, if you're commuting to work and you've got a dual wheel pickup truck that's shiny, doesn't have a scratch on it, and it's been maybe used to pull a boat a couple of times this summer, and
Yep,
that's it. But you're using that to commute from a suburb into a downtown Denver to work each day. That's a problem.
that's right.
Obviously, for many reasons, that's a problem. So, but I get it. If you need a truck for your work and you have a
All right.
farm with horses, you've got to have vehicles that work for that. And
Yep.
that makes sense. That's practical. But
Right.
I see so many people today, I don't want to offend any listeners out there, but yeah, you might
So
want to park the princess truck on during the weekdays and commute to work get a commuter car. You might actually save money and save the planet by using a commuter car for
you
commuting rather
I've
than your pickup truck, right?
yeah, I've done the numbers and it works.
Yeah.
To have a commuter car versus I've got an F-250 diesel,
Sure. I know you have a
and
big truck. Yeah.
and so we've got that, and then I have an electric car for my commute because my commute's 35 miles each way. Uh,
Yikes.
so
So,
that's a hefty commute, and then I've
yeah.
got solar panels that
You don't want to be getting
charges up
13
the car.
miles you don't want to be getting 13 miles a gallon on that commute.
Oh, man, no. Well, the other thing is I don't like getting beat up by driving a truck. Man, those things are rough compared to a small car.
Yeah. Yeah, they can ride rougher too, although they're
Oh,
making them better and better. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's true. And it's easy to fall in that trap where it's a status symbol or a reward. But as you say, why go down that road? Buy what suits your needs, and your future retirement and bank accounts will thank you, right? So,
Yes,
what's
right.
next?
So the next thing is not living off borrowed money. Okay. So there's a couple of ways that applies. One is credit cards. So don't rely on credit cards for everything unless you can pay those darn things off.
Yeah,
Don't finance your regular spending through credit cards. Now, some people will use home equity to live on, right? So they'll
yeah,
take equity out of their home. They'll go down to a bank and get a home loan with that equity. And so you can do that. So you're basically taking cash out of your home and but you're also, it's a lower interest rate than those credit cards,
Yeah, it
um,
is.
but it's still something where you're using borrowed money to pay for things that you should just be able to pay for.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
we believe in, using leveraged money to get things that create money, but not money for depreciating assets, not for money that is things that you can't get money back on. So homes, right? You can build equity, but you don't build equity in lunch.
That's true. That's true, right? That
Yeah.
is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So refinancing the home or taking out a home equity line of credit, it may not be the best option for you. So you should really discuss that with your financial services professional before you make any big decisions about doing that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I would agree, and that's where you have to everybody's situation is different. It might be a good idea in your particular situation, but it might not. And so don't make a move like that or do something like that without having a plan in place and working with a financial professional. Get that spending plan in place. And our
that's right.
listeners should talk to you and Tara about that.
Yes.
And I think that's really important. Now we're almost out of time for today's show. I can't
Oh,
believe it flew by.
that was
Yeah, can
fast.
you believe it? Yeah. Yeah, it was fast today. But before we go, I know
Yes,
you're offering a no charge consultation, a strategy session,
that's right.
the initial session and meeting. There's no charge and there's no obligation. But you can see where you're at. I know you help people run reports and see where they're at financially, what their risk tolerance is, and what can help them in the future, especially as they plan to try to have enough retirement income. You don't want to run out of income in retirement. And that's what this is all
Oh,
about.
right. Yeah, that's what financial planning is about, is
Yep.
building a target and then building your finances around hitting those targets.
Yep, exactly. So important. Well, before we go, let our listeners know how they can set up that consultation and get a hold of you.
So call us at 719-210-4242. If we can't get with you, if we don't answer the phone, just leave a message and we will get back with you. So just call that number, 719-210-4242. Leave a message and we will get back with you. Okay, so give us a call.
All right. That's great. Thank you so much, Chris. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio with our host, Chris. I almost said Chris Nolan. Chris McKinney. Sorry about that. That
Join us.
does it for today's episode with Chris McKinney.
That's right. So join us again soon for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio.